I guess I should have seen what was happening all along. But now that I sit here in the dark and I think about it, looking back at everything that was going on at the time, but I don't think I just wanted to admit it to myself. It was simple, really. All I wanted to do was buy a book on black magic. I had looked for a very long time for a book like this. And there it was. The sales lady said that an old woman had come into the store and placed an order for the book. So the book had taken a very long time to come into the store. Once the book did, they called the old lady and told her that the book was there. But the old lady did not come in for the book. The manager said, "Call the manufacturer and return the book." But the manufacturer did not want the book back. So they had nothing else left to do but to take the book and put it out on the shelf. And knowing how very hard these books are to get, to read a book on black magic, it's very difficult. You see, it's based in with religion and how old our planet is. And some of it is written in a foreign language. So if you don't pronounce things correctly, or the translation's not right, some things get left out, but some things get left in, and you end up opening gates that you don't know that you're opening. Now, in this book, they have a chapter that tells you how to talk to the dead. And, I thought this would be great. I could talk up, some old friend, people that I wanted to talk to, ask them questions. Now, before I go on any further, let me just tell you, I have seen ghosts and demons before, and I have talked to the dead before. I worked with white magic and wands and crystals. So this was not going to be anything out of my realm. In this house that we're living in, we have ghosts already. One day, my wife had left for work, and just my daughter and I were the only ones that were here. So I was in the kitchen making pancakes and eggs. As I was cooking, I looked off to my right. I could see what looked like, out of the corner of my eye, my daughter skipping in and out of the dining room. Well, I called out to her, "Hey, do you want some eggs and pancakes?" But she didn't answer me. So I called out to her again as I walked through the kitchen and to the dining room, and I looked out into the living room to see her laying there on the couch. She was dressed up in a blue jumpsuit. I knew that I hadn't been seeing my daughter, and this was the first time that I had seen the little girl ghost that lived there. I went over and woke up my daughter and told her that I had seen the little girl in the pink dress that had been skipping in and out of the dining room. When I told her about this as we were eating, she said, "I have seen her too, but not in the way that you have seen her. I have seen her shadow in my bedroom with her pigtails on my wall. She's been there for a very long time. Ever since we moved into this house, I have seen her." And my daughter telling me about seeing her for such a long time. So I decided to go down to the public library and see if I could find some help. Well, down there at the library, they have old newspapers that are put on discs, some form of film that you could look at all of the newspapers that had come from the 1970s and before, as far back as the records would go. I started looking in an old neighborhood, found out the house had been built back in the 70s. Well, one of the stories that was in this newspaper article that I had found had explained the fact that there was a little girl and there was a kidnapping shortly after the houses were built. They had taken a photograph, and there in the background was our house. Later that same year, the father was found missing. No one knew what had happened to him, and he hadn't left any note. As time went on, the newspaper articles wrote that the little girl's body had never been found, and no one knows to this day where she is. So, after having this information, I went home. I started going from room to room to see if I could tell where her presence was stronger. It seemed to be in my daughter's bedroom. So, as days went by, my daughter and I were sitting in what we called the office at the time and said, "Hey, what about that little girl? Have you seen her? Have you heard from her at all?" I said, "No, I haven't seen her. It's as if..." And just then, I felt this pressure coming up on my back, and it was like forcing its way into me, and I felt sick, like I was going to throw up or something, and I felt this tremendous pressure, and that's the last I remember. Pressure, so much pressure, and then a voice came out of my mouth. "I live here, up in the attic. There are many spiders that live here with me. My father used to live here with me, but not anymore. Not anymore."